Hey guys, welcome back to Subjective Complete. I think I'm talking probably to a few more of you since the last time I did this. The Deadpool and Wolverine video seemed to do pretty well. Definitely the most viewed video I've had so far, well over 1,000 views, and I've gained a few subscribers since, my last video, so people are at least enjoying it a little bit. I know 20 subscribers is kind of like a small milestone, but, it's better than 5, which would be like me and my very close friends. So, for all of you who are returning watchers, or those of you who are new subscribers to my last video, or those of you who are just seeing this video for the first time and considering watching another, I really appreciate it, and thank you for giving me a little bit more reason to do this. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about video games. And in particular, I want to talk about 2 specific video games, Elden Ring and Bloodborne. And, to an extension, why I think that Bloodborne is, to this day, still a better From Software game than Elden Ring. To be clear, I think that Elden Ring is an excellent game, and it is definitely one of the best open-world games that I've played, but it is not the best FromSoft game. Now, I could sit here and disagree with review scores all day, but I want to talk about why I personally feel this way, so be prepared for very subjective viewpoint on both of these games. First off, while I do think that open world games can be very fulfilling experiences, and obviously Bloodborne is a very linear experience, I think the theming is so much stronger in Bloodborne, and I feel much more engrossed in the story, to the point that it feels like a better experience than many other linear games. And like I said, Elden Ring has an exceptional open world, but it feels almost too open for my taste. I often find myself feeling disconnected from the plot and overstimulated by the vast environments. There's so much to do that I get separated from a quest for hours at a time. This makes the game feel less focused as a complete experience. Don't get me wrong. I can go around riding on Torrent for hours and just whacking little shambling enemies with torches and, just seeing the world, as it were. But at a certain point, it just doesn't feel as full. Like, it just feels like I'm kind of running around waiting for something to happen rather than, experiencing a filled world with, exciting experiences along the entire journey. And in the same vein, the world in Bloodborne just feels more complete in general. I think it's partially because of the smaller map, but it genuinely feels more lived in. Everything feels purposeful, and it clicks into place seamlessly. It's genuinely perfect to me. Like I said, Elden Ring's world is very good, and is honestly staggeringly large, but while it is truly impressive as an open world, it lacks the level of harmony that Bloodborne achieves. I have surprisingly found myself feeling more awe-inspired in Bloodborne than in Elden Ring, despite the impressive vistas. Because sometimes a clock tower standing above a decrepit city hits harder than the setting sun. I liken it to a buffet versus a 5-course meal. It's a high-quality buffet, but it doesn't compare to a finely curated menu of just the most delicious food you've ever had. The food is good either way. But sometimes I just want 5 amazing bites rather than a plate full of pretty good stuff. All that is to say, while I do love Elden Ring and have many memorable moments with it, Bloodborne is an experience that I will remember forever as a complete vision. The music in Bloodborne is also more thematically resonant in my opinion. Now, Elden Ring has some fantastic music, but it doesn't make me feel in the same way that Bloodborne does. There are tracks in Bloodborne that fit their bosses so well that I've gotten emotional while playing. I've shed tears while experiencing, the atmosphere that they're building during some of the fights. while there are some similar moments in Elden Ring that have some of that weight, they just don't hit the same to me. Now, to give credit where it's due, I do think that Elden Ring excels in boss design. Some of my favorite bosses are obviously from Bloodborne, but I can't deny that Elden Ring is filled with much more variety and has some truly unique aesthetic and gameplay elements that stand out even alongside Bloodborne. And especially factoring in the difficulty, there are some pop-offs that I'll never forget from Elden Ring. Melania is a uniquely frustrating boss, but the feeling of defeating her was one of the most intense rushes I've ever felt. Horaloo is my all-time favorite Elden Ring design and is probably in my top 5 bosses from all FromSoft games. And, I gotta be honest, it doesn't hurt that he's designed like a grappler, like my boy Zangief from Street Fighter. He's just got the sauce. He just looks so cool. I can't deny it. And small spoilers for the DLC Shadow of the Erdtree, but Divine Beast Dancing Lion is one of the most unique and awe-inspiring designs in the whole DLC, and honestly in almost any FromSoft game. It feels very similar to some of the bosses in Sekiro, where it's just like cinematic in the way that it fights. The music and the theming just really works together. And I know it has real-world inspiration, but it genuinely just feels so whimsical in a way that not many other FromSoft bosses can capture. Now, don't get me wrong, Bloodborne is no slacker in the boss department. I mean, Orphan of Kos is obviously one of the most iconic bosses, both difficulty and design-wise. The fight itself is great, but beating it makes it even more rewarding. And though it may be a little bit easier than some final bosses you may expect, Moon Presence is just so thematically perfect for the ending of that game, and it just fills me with just the most emotional feelings at the end of that game. Like, it just hits the nail on the head. And it's to the point where that is going to be my first tattoo. It's going to be the plan that I've been setting for years is I'm going to get a Moon Presence tattoo. I'm going to get the red moon behind it. I'm going to get the hunter looking up at it. It's just the symbolism, this imagery. It's just so sick. And then there's Lady Maria. Oh, my dear Lady Maria. Her fight is my favorite in any Souls game. The music, the second phase, love it. Love her. My favorite. Ooh, big kiss. Her fight just continues to prove that FromSoft rocks at DLC. And speaking of, I also think that the Old Hunters DLC is a better expansion of the concepts in Bloodborne than Shadow of the Erdtree is compared to Elden Ring. Both are obviously excellent, and I'm not going to argue that, but the Old Hunters feels like an extension of the base game, whereas Elden Ring's feels like extra content that could have been folded into a sequel. In my mind, it kind of compares to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask versus Mario Galaxy 1 and Mario Galaxy 2. Like, Ocarina lays down a great foundation for this version of Link and this era of N64 Zelda, and then Majora's Mask takes a lot of that foundation, twists it a little bit, kind of puts it in an alternate reality, and just gives you just a much more just juicy version of that first game that you played. And then Mario Galaxy is like, hey, well, let's make this fantastic base game, like revolutionary, new, genre-defining game. And then for the sequel, for the follow-up, it's the same game with more, and we just had a few more ideas that we really wanted to put in the base game, but it was just, we just kind of, here's more of it, here's the rest, here you go. Just doesn't feel the same, you know? And also, as I said earlier, Bloodborne's got Lady Maria, so it's not even really fair. It kind of wins by default. I'm biased, what can I say? And I can't end a video about FromSoft games without talking about the delicious, delicious combat. This is the category that I think the two are closest in, because both of them, as with all Souls games, have incredible combat in my opinion. I do think that these two stand even further above the rest. But if I had to choose, if I was really, really down to it, I'd have to choose Bloodborne, if only because it encourages a faster gameplay style. And after all, I am a filthy Dex player. Also, the saw cleaver as a weapon is one of my favorite designs for a weapon in any media, like in any fiction. I just love it. It's so simple, but like it fits the aesthetic of Bloodborne. And again, I'm biased. I fucking love Bloodborne. I have since it came out, and this is no different. I just love everything about it. Sue me. And at the end of the day, it might be that bias talking, but I just think that Bloodborne is the better game, and I personally hold it amongst my favorite games of all time. Now, up to this point, I haven't been giving review scores because I didn't feel like it matters as much to me, but I've been thinking about it, and I think it might give some insight to my feelings across multiple videos. So I'm going to give you some ratings for the other media I've talked about, and I will warn you, these will be, pun fully intended, completely subjective ratings, so don't worry if they are too high or too low for your tastes. Your feelings are still valid. So, starting with Luigi's Mansion, it's a 10 out of 10. No, I will not elaborate. Just watch my first video. It's perfect. Second, Lethal Company is an 8 out of 10. It may be a perfect multiplayer game, but it isn't flawless. I'll play it forever, but I just can't give it a 10. It's gotta be an 8. Third, we got Deadpool and Wolverine, and it gets a 7.5 out of 10. I wasn't planning on giving it a half score, but it didn't feel right giving it an 8 or a 7. I don't care, it's my ranking. You can't tell me what to do. 7.5. Now, Elden Ring gets a 9 out of 10. It comes close to the top for me, but it's just not quite there. Maybe it's the personal bias talking, but it just doesn't hit the same. Still excellent, though. And last, but certainly not least, Bloodborne, shockingly, gets a 10 out of 10 as well. Go figure. My two favorite games both get 10s, but I really do think that they're perfect for me. Anyway, that's the end of the video. If you like the video, go ahead and like the video. Like physically, push the like button. It's down there. Go ahead. And if you like my other videos, and you like the sound of me talking about shit that I enjoy, then feel free to subscribe. I won't be asking that often, but we're early on to here. We're in early days, and I feel like, talking about it now is probably, gonna do more than not talking about it ever. So, do it if you want to. I'll give you a kiss. Before I go, Sony and FromSoft, if you're listening, if anyone out there is listening to me, I swear to God, I need you to make Bloodborne 2. I need it now. I'm on my hands and knees. Please, FromSoft. Please! Okay, bye.